Raiders release Gardner Minshew. What's next? Big news is coming out of Las Vegas. The Raiders have officially decided to part ways with quarterback Gardner Minshew, oinke, NFL insider Tom Pelissero reported that the team has informed Minshew of his release, which will take effect when the new league year begins next Wednesday. This move opens up an opportunity for other teams, as Minshew, a 28-year-old quarterback with 46 career starts, now becomes available. For the Raiders, this decision isn't just about moving on from their starting quarterback, it's also about creating cap space. By releasing Minshew, they save approximately $6 million earnings, though they will still take a $7 million cap hit in pa. The team originally signed Minshew as a veteran presence, possibly to mentor a rookie quarterback, but things didn't go as planned. So, what's next for the Raiders head coach? PeteCarroll, and general manager JohnSpytek have made it clear they want competition at quarterback. That means they're exploring veteran options. Reports suggest they were initially interested in a Matthew Stafford, Ewan, with Miar. Tom Brady not even meeting with him. Now they seem to be shifting focus to Sam Darnold. Other names linked to the team include Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. Looking back at last year, the Raiders were in a strong position with a top defense house and a solid roster. When former GM Tom Telescope arrived, the plan was to draft a quarterback and have Minshew serve as a veteran backup, similar to his role with Trevor Lawrence back in Jacksonville and Anthony Richardson back in Indianapolis. However, the draft didn't go as expected. Several teams took quarterbacks early, leaving the Raiders without their ideal pick. That forced them to pivot to a Minshew-Aiden O'Connell duo, which clearly wasn't the long-term plan. Some believe this failure to secure a franchise quarterback played a role in Telesco's firing. Now, with Minshew gone, the question remains, will the Raiders bring in another veteran, or will they finally commit to drafting a young quarterback? Typically, teams that draft a rookie prefer to have an experienced QB in place to mentor them. But releasing Minshew could be a sign that Las Vegas is leaning toward a different approach. One thing is certain, the Raiders' quarterback situation is far from settled. With free agency and the draft coming up, the team has big decisions to make. Will they land a top veteran? Will they make a bold move in the draft? Either way, this offseason is shaping up to be a game changer for the franchise. The Raiders are making some bold moves as they look to secure a veteran quarterback for the upcoming season, a decision that's been brewing for a while. They've been actively pursuing experienced players, with one of their most notable attempts being a push to bring in Matthew Stafford. They even went so far as to have Tom Brady meet with him in Montana, hoping to make the deal work. But that plan didn't pan out. Despite this, the Raiders are still aiming high. And now it looks like they're going all in on quarterbacks like Sam Darnold, who is set to become a free agent soon. It's clear that the Raiders are sticking with the veteran route. Releasing Gardner Minshew makes sense if the team plans to bring in another seasoned quarterback. And if they're not drafting a rookie, the focus has to be on experienced players. This raises the question, who could the Raiders end up bringing in? Some of the options out there include Russell Wilson, a quarterback with a proven track record, or even Justin Fields, who still has massive potential despite some struggles in his career so far. There's also Aaron Rodgers, the 41-year-old legend who, while nearing the end of his career, could still be a game changer after recovering from an injury and coming back fully healthy this season. His relatively low salary cap hit could make him a very appealing choice for the Raiders. And of course, there are other options like Josh Dokes, though it's uncertain whether the Raiders would pursue him. Another name in the mix is Hendon Hooker, who could be released soon, adding to the pool of veteran quarterbacks available for the Raiders. Of course, Aiden O'Connell is still on the roster, though it's unclear whether he's the future. He didn't manage to earn the starting role last season, but if he has a standout offseason, there's a chance he could compete for the starting job against someone like Justin Fields. However, If the Raiders bring in Rodgers or pay for someone like Sam Darnold, it's likely going to be their job to lose. O'Connell would still be there as a backup or in a development role, as he's under contract for a couple more years. The Raiders also have Carter Bradley under contract, though he's more of a depth option for now. The future is uncertain, but one thing's for sure. The Raiders are focused on finding that veteran leader at quarterback. Switching gears, Max Crosby, the Raiders' superstar defensive end, recently shared some thoughts on quarterback play, especially when it comes to recovering from serious injuries. He mentioned that coming back from an Achilles injury is one of the toughest challenges for a player, pointing to quarterbacks like Kirk Cousins and Aaron Rodgers, who both struggled early on after their injuries but found their rhythm later in the season. Crosby expressed hope that Rodgers, despite being 41 years old, could still have a huge year, and, with any luck, he might even end up playing for the Raiders. It's clear Crosby believes Rodgers has more in the tank, and if the Raiders can land him, they could be in for an exciting season. So, as the Raiders continue their quest to secure their next quarterback, it seems the options are plentiful, and some big decisions are just around the corner. Max Crosby's recent comments make it clear. He wants to win, and he wants to win now. It's not just talk. Crosby has been vocal this offseason about needing to know the Raiders' plan. He's even hinted that if the team's direction doesn't align with his winning mindset, he could request a trade. His desire to win immediately puts the Raiders in a tough position. If they go all in on a rookie quarterback, that suggests a long-term rebuilding effort. But if they focus on bringing in a seasoned veteran like Aaron Rodgers, it signals a win-now mentality, something Crosby fully supports. It's worth noting that Crosby has already had conversations with the Raiders management, including general manager Dave Ziegler, and is on board with the current plan. So, when Crosby mentions Rodgers as a potential target, it feels significant. He likely knows something the rest of us don't, and it's clear that Rodgers could be the veteran QB Crosby prefers. While other names like Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, and Sam Darnold are floating around, the mention of Rodgers suggests Crosby sees him as the key to making a push for a title in the near future. Now let's take a step back. If the Raiders decide to move forward with a rookie quarterback and Aiden O'Connell, that could be a tough pill for Crosby to swallow. A rookie means patience, and patience means another few years before a real shot at a championship. Crosby is 26 and in his prime, and while he's dedicated to the Raiders, he's also aware that his window to win is finite. If he doesn't see progress in the next few years, he might push for a change, whether it's a trade or a move to a team with a stronger chance of winning. The Raiders' future is hanging in the balance, and it's clear that Crosby isn't willing to waste years waiting for a rebuild. He wants results, and he's made it clear that if the Raiders don't deliver, he might seek a fresh start elsewhere. The clock is ticking for the team to build around their superstar defensive player. In other news, the Jets made a major move, officially releasing Davante Adams. This move saves the team $29 million in cap space and raises some interesting questions. We all knew this was coming, but now that it's official, it's worth reflecting on the Raiders' time with Adams. The team traded a first and second-round pick to acquire him, and while the production was solid, things never really clicked the way the Raiders had hoped. From Derek Carr to Jimmy Garoppolo and even to Gardner Minshew, the QB carousel never helped the offense find stability. The most surprising part? The Raiders didn't just get out of Adams' contract. They managed to get a third-round pick in return, a solid return considering the circumstances. It's a reminder that the Raiders' front office has been making moves to reshape the roster, even when things don't go according to plan. Now, with Adams officially off the roster, the team must decide where to go next, whether it's bringing in a new superstar or continuing to build for the future. A third-round pick is often underestimated, but it's a gem in the NFL draft. Many people don't realize just how valuable these picks can be. Some of the best players on both the defensive and offensive lines come from the third round. Take Osa Odigizua, for example. He was a third-round pick and just landed a big contract. The Raiders have shown they can find talent in this range too, like Jackson and Paris Johnson, who has proven to be an elite player despite being a second-round pick. And then there's Trey Smith, who came in the 4th or 5th round, but is playing at a high level. The key takeaway here is that with smart drafting, a 3rd-round pick can be a game changer, potentially bringing in a player who will be a cornerstone of your team. The Raiders made an excellent move by trading Davante Adams and turning that contract into a 3rd-round pick. Remember, Adams is 32 or 33 years old, and the Raiders didn't just offload his hefty contract. They got something valuable in return. In many ways, they fleeced the Jets in this deal. The Jets went all in on a Super Bowl run by trading for Adams, but it didn't work out. Now, they're stuck with cap issues and no real path forward at quarterback. It's a tough situation, and the Raiders have to be careful not to end up in a similar spot. It's worth considering that going all in for a veteran QB like Aaron Rodgers or Sam Darnold could be a risky play. Sure, it might give the Raiders a chance to win right now, but there's always the possibility that things won't work out as planned. If it doesn't, the Raiders could end up in a rebuild much like the Jets, and nobody wants that. It's something the front office needs to weigh carefully before making big moves. On a brighter note, the Raiders have made a solid signing by bringing back guard Jordan Meredith on a 1-year deal worth just over $1 million. Meredith is a versatile player who can step in at left guard, right guard, or even center, making him a valuable asset for the team. For such a low price, this is a great move for depth and stability along the offensive line. However, while this is a smart backup option, the Raiders still need to beef up their interior line if they want to compete at a higher level. Looking around the league, the Bears have made some huge moves to strengthen their offensive line. In the past couple of days, they've traded for Jonah Jackson and Joe Thuney, both of whom are Pro Bowl caliber players. These types of moves show how important it is to shore up the offensive line. The Raiders should take a page from the Bears' playbook and find their own version of a top-tier guard. The interior line still needs work, and while Meredith is a solid addition, the team must continue to build a stronger foundation if they want to compete at the highest level. The right moves now could make all the difference in the future. It's important to be strategic when making moves in the NFL, especially with how much teams are paying for certain positions. For example, paying a guard $25 million doesn't make much sense. Guards are essential, but they're not usually the highest paid players on the roster. Instead, a move like bringing in Jonah Jackson, who will only count $11 million against the cap for the next 2 years, makes a lot more sense. That's a value signing that could pay off for the Raiders in a big way. Similarly, if the Raiders could bring in someone like Damon Lewis, one of the most physical and dominant guards in the league, for around $12 to $13 million, that would be a solid deal. Guards in that price range, especially those who have proven themselves, are worth the investment. The key is finding those kinds of deals that strengthen the offensive line without breaking the bank. Jordan Meredith is another smart signing, albeit for a different purpose. At just $1 million for a 1-year contract, he's a great addition as a backup. While he might not be a long-term starter or a physical powerhouse at the moment, he adds depth to the offensive line and gives the Raiders a solid option in case of injury. Plus, he'll be a restricted free agent next year, so the Raiders have the option to bring him back at a minimal cost if needed. Even though Meredith isn't a game-changing player, signing him for a small contract is smart roster management. It fills out the depth chart, which is crucial for a team's success. But the Raiders still need more work on the interior offensive line. They'll need to continue looking for upgrades, especially at center and guard, and possibly add some stronger, more physical players to truly solidify their line for the long run. In addition to these moves, the Raiders have also made some moves on the defensive side of the ball. They placed a restriction on Sam Webb, meaning that if another team wants to take him, they'll have to send a draft pick in return. It's not the flashy signing many people expected, but it's smart, value-driven decisions like this that will help the Raiders build a strong, competitive team. It's all part of the bigger plan, and as the offseason unfolds, we'll get a clearer picture of how these moves fit into the team's long-term strategy. What do you think of these moves? Leave your thoughts in the comments, don't forget to hit the thumbs up, and subscribe for more updates.